Good afternoon, Dublin. I've been told to speak slowly because apparently I have an accent. I've never noticed it myself. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you. I am a member of the organisation called LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. Who are we? We are serving retired police officers. We are state legislators, senators, prosecutors, people from all over the world in the law enforcement agency who understand very clearly and without any doubt that the war on drugs is lost. It's a complete and absolute failure and will never be won under the current set of circumstances. We've been fighting the war on drugs since 1971. Most of you in the audience are far too young to remember a guy called Richard Milhous Nixon who wanted to be elected the President of the United States of America. He passed a law. He wanted a war on drugs so he could have a law and order hook, and he set up departments all over America to carry out a war on drugs, to arrest people for possession of marijuana. And he did that, and they've done that tremendously successfully or unsuccessfully, depending on how you look at America. Between 1971 and 2009, in the United States of America, they incarcerated for non-violent drug offences 39 million people. That's 8 times the population of Scotland, all in the jail for non-violent drug offences. The drug laws in this country are a farce and don't work. I joined the police in 1975, and when I joined, they talked about a tenner bag. I left in 2007, 32 years later, we were still talking tenner bags. Now, even if inflation had kept pace with that, it would have been £147. It's not happening. In Dublin here, you'll have the same as we have in Glasgow, a big scary prison with 4 walls and just hopefully the one door in and out. That's where we put the bad guys. Now, you would think that was fairly secure. You can all tell me the one place in Dublin you're absolutely guaranteed to get the drug of your choice, and that's inside a prison. So if you can't keep them out of the prisons, how are you going to keep them out of the population? The reason that drugs are such big business, and they are now possibly either the second or the third biggest business in the world, if you line up oil, arms and illegal drugs, the 3 of them are all pretty close together. Why is it such a successful operation? Because it's all about the money, folks. Like Lady Gaga says, it's all about the money. It's where they make their money, because they don't pay tax, they don't pay anything, and the drug dealers are particularly good at what they do. They have transport managers, they have lawyers, they have accountants, they have people who will propagate their produce for them, and every time they get caught, they go along to whichever court they were caught in and sit and listen to the police evidence, and they work out where they went wrong, and they make sure they don't do it the next time. And they're very, very good at that. So we in LEAP are in favour of the legalisation and regulation of everything that's currently illegal. If you want to sniff it, snort it, inject it, or take it through any orifice in your body, provided you're over 18, you know the strength, the purity, the effect, and your responsibilities, then we believe you should be allowed to do that. LEAP as an organisation don't advocate that people should take drugs. We don't advocate they should be compulsory or that you should sell them to children. But if we were rewriting the Misuse of Drugs Act tomorrow, the very first thing at the top of the list would be alcohol. More people have died, certainly in Scotland, from the effects of alcohol than will ever die from the effects of drugs. But the amount of resources that we put into targeting drugs is 10 and 20 times the amount we put into targeting alcohol. We need to rethink. Albert Einstein said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. 44 years we've been fighting with the Misuse of Drugs Act, and it hasn't made a difference. Drugs are more plentiful, more cheaper and easier to get than they have ever been. Now, as members of the public, if you don't want to change that, you just need to sit in your hands and nothing will happen. But if you look a wee bit further abroad to Mexico, you were told, well, my government told us in the UK 5 years ago, don't go to Mexico, there's swine flu. And we all rebooked our holidays. What they didn't tell you was that if you go to Mexico, there's a chance you could get killed in the turf wars between the Mexican drug cartels and the army. And in the last 6 years, 62,000 civilians have been murdered in the battle for turf in Mexico. That's what the war on drugs is. It's a war on people. It's not getting your car window broken and your stereo nicked for somebody to go and buy a tenner deal. It's the people who are dying in Mexico, right across the country. It's the 548 soldiers who went to Afghanistan to get regime change. They all died, and the heroin production in Afghanistan has increased. All the things the governments are currently doing are not working. So we need change. We need regulation, we need legalisation, and we need control. If you look at the United States of America, Colorado's had their first year return for the legalisation of cannabis. In Colorado, you can buy a license to grow a couple of plants for your own use, or you can go to a licensed shop and you can buy the drug of your choice. It's no longer illegal to smoke it in the street. It's no longer illegal to have it in your possession. Their first year results came in. They took in tax $84 million. Now that's $84 million that's going straight to schools and hospitals and drug education, which most people listen to and think that's brilliant. The figure I like to look at is that $84 million in tax came off $700 million worth of sales. That's $700 million that didn't go to the black economy, that didn't go to the criminals, that didn't go to the bad guys. Now, people say to me, well, if you stop them selling the drugs, they'll just have to go and do something else. Great, I'd love to see them working for their money, because at the moment they don't have to. So that's the best example we have so far. Washington State has gone down the same road. Portugal, we know, is decriminalised possession. And the stats speak for themselves, and other people have already spoken about that. But we need a change, people. What we're doing is not working. It's never going to work. I used to be a fully paid up member of the Hang 'em, Flog 'em and Shoot 'em Brigade. The drug figures came out one year and my answer was, I was still a police officer at the time, there was 103 people killed in Strathclyde from illegal drugs. My answer at that time was, let's go and build more prisons and lock more people up. That doesn't work, because about 3 weeks later I discovered that 128 people had been killed on the roads. More people die on the roads in Scotland than die from the effects of illegal drugs. More people die from tobacco-related injuries. And in Scotland, unfortunately, somewhere between 30 and 35,000 people a year die from the effects of alcohol. Are they parading up and down the street trying to ban booze? No, because we all like a drink. We don't mind. We like a fag. We don't mind. Some people like gambling. Gambling destroys countless lives. But do we ban them? No, we don't. We legalise them, we regulate them, and we control them. 30 years ago, if I'd been standing here, there would have been a sea of cigarette smoke wafting its way up here, and I wouldn't be able to see the people at the back. But the fact is, did we ban tobacco? No, because that wouldn't have worked. What we did was, with some very smart legislation, some very, very good education, we taught people the dangers. And now, outside, or certainly in the pubs, it doesn't happen. And everybody's quite happy about that. But that wouldn't have happened if we'd banned it. So what makes these people think that banning drugs is going to have the same effect? People, we need to get up, we need to talk about this. You need to talk about it among yourselves. More importantly, you need to talk about it to your politicians. They need to understand that there are votes in this, because without votes, they won't stick their head above the parapet. And if you want change, then that's the way we need to go. But we need to change it, because at the moment, this current moment in time, the people who decide what drugs they're going to give to your children and grandchildren and what they're going to cut them with and what the effects are going to be are the criminals. And I, for one, am not happy to see that continue. I want us to do something about it. And having had the opportunity to speak today, I fully endorse, keep up to date with the Students for Sensible Drug Policy. We need to take this forward, we need to change it. There's a generation coming along who understand it far better than my generation do. We need to support them, we need to help them, we need to educate them. Thank you very much for listening.